And I just wanted to check and see, Lisa, are you on? Lisa Castellanos, are you on?
Yes, I am on. Hi.
Hi,
can you hear me?
Welcome. We can hear you, but your video camera is not on, so.
That's right. I will figure that out.
All right, wonderful. Okay, so welcome everybody. My name is Barb Cardell. I'm the PWN USA Training Director. Thank you again for joining us for our block party. As always on a Saturday morning, we start off with a little bit of dancing, and I apologize to everyone who had to watch my sad Saturday morning moves. I promise I probably have a little bit more game, but not a lot more than that. But, you know, that's all right. We're family, and we just love all of us, however we show up on these Saturday mornings. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're in record mode, just double checking that. So I'm going to tell you all a little bit about the U.S. Positive Women's Network. The U.S. Positive Women's Network formed in 2008 when a group of 25 women living with HIV from across the United States came together. And I just need to say that the women that came together were a vast diversity that represents so many of our intersectionalities and so much of our lives as women living with HIV. We had an 18-year-old all the way up to a 72-year-old. We had people who were differently abled. We had people of trans experience. We had people from the East Coast, from the West Coast, in between, and came together and realized that until we formed an organization that was led by women living with HIV, for women living with HIV, that we were not ever going to see ourselves in any of the policy and any of the advocacy asks that were moving forward. So that time, the U.S. Positive Women's Network was formed, and 11 years later, we are here and as strong and as powerful as always. Our mission is to prepare and involve women living with HIV in all of our diversity, in all levels of policy and decision-making. And that is our amazing Wahida Shabazz El, who is a founding member and was our organizing director for a number of years. She really set us on our feet and down the path of incredible power and advocacy. She wrote this article, and if you haven't read it, I would recommend you go ahead and do that. It's on our website, and it talks about we will control our own destinies. We are the Positive Women's Network, United States of America. PWN sees the HIV epidemic, especially as Black, brown, lesbian, gay, bisexual, queer, trans, and gender nonconforming, low impact, are disproportionately impacted as a symptom of a larger injustice and inequities. We organize to build power in communities that are most impacted by the HIV epidemic. And our core strategies that we do this is leadership development, of which today's webinar is part of that. Organizing and mobilizing for strategic campaigns, both issue-based and electoral organizing, policy analysis and policy advocacy, and strategic communications. All of these center racial, economic, and gender justice. PWN has 6 policy priorities that we use to shape our involvement as well as our advocacy. They're universal health care, economic justice, sexual and reproductive health, rights and justice, ending criminalization, trans rights, safety and justice, and ending violence against women living with HIV. And we have a number of PDFs and fact sheets on our website that you can go ahead and find under the issues and our policy agenda. And they are pretty powerful if you would like to go and take a look at them. We want to just conclude with what is our PWN block party? What have we been doing all summer other than having an amazing time getting up and getting our advocacy going on a Saturday morning? It is a summertime web-based series designed to build skills in our grassroots community, and we do this because of our racial, gender, and economic injustice hurts us all. Because building power for our communities is all about listening to people's real concerns so we can address them. Because organizing depends on our relationships and rigor, and because we are going to be here in 2020 and beyond. We're not going anywhere, and we will continue to be a part of all of the solutions that we need as we elevate the lives of women and all people living with HIV in the United States. For today, there are a couple of ways for you to participate. Looks like everybody's already warmed up the chat box. We've got a lot of people checking in and saying hello, and that is great. So you can go ahead and chat us in the chat box. We've not been using the question and answer box too much because it tends to just send to the presenters, and so we like to keep the chat box lively and ask that when you are going ahead and sharing, that you go ahead and share with everybody instead of just the panelists so that everyone can see what your great points are, or if you have a question, that other people might be having that same question. You can go ahead and raise your hand. We're in webinar mode and all of the attendees are on mute so that we can get a really good recording. But if you would like to ask a question or make a comment, go ahead and raise your hand and I'll take you off of mute and you will be able to go ahead and ask your question. Because sometimes, I don't know about you, but especially on a weekend, I get a little chatty and I can't always type all of that into the chat box. And it's just easier to say it out loud. So if you want to go ahead and talk to us, raise your hand and we'll go ahead and take you off of mute. And as always, feel free to live tweet about this block party and anything that PWN does. You can find us at UFPWN, and it has been pretty active lately because we have had a number of really interesting conversations with Jonathan Van Ness as he has come out as somebody living with HIV, and we welcomed him into our advocacy community. So if you have a chance, go back and check that out because it was a really interesting opportunity to look at how somebody steps into advocacy roles. So with that, welcome to Beyond List Building, and I'm going to turn it over to Lisa.
You're on mute, Lisa.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Rika. My name is Lisa Maria Castellanos, pronouns they, them. I'll be your moderator here today, supporting our amazing panel of facilitators. And as Barb mentioned, this is the last installment of the 6-part webinar series focused on grassroots organizing, building power from the ground up. The series is brought to you again by Positive Women's Network and the Groundswell Fund. We invite you to use your chat box right now, if you haven't already, to introduce yourself, your pronoun, what city and state you're in. And while you're doing that, we're going to get started on the last topic, which, as Barb mentioned, is Beyond List Building. Really, this is about creating a little movement moment conversation as our bookend webinar for this really great series, and really honored to have been a part of it. Now I want to introduce Rika Muñeca Rodriguez to start us off.
Thanks, Lisa. So I use pronouns she, her, and hers. We wanted just to go a little bit back. So our previous webinars, we focused a lot on the hard and soft skills of grassroots organizing. And today we want to bring it back to 2 learnings that we learned: public narrative, or the story about realizing an injustice and choosing to take action, and the central organizing practice. So one-on-one conversations. The public narrative and the practice of one-on-ones are critical to collecting purpose-driven data that informs how we mobilize commitments and how we build collective power. I love these little slides. That little owl is my favorite. Tootsie Roll.
Yes, Tootsie Roll.
Okay, where was I? Sorry. So this is a fancy way that says how our lists are for building based and shifting powers. And remembering that in grassroots community organizing, constituents are the people that are most impacted, and when we mobilize commitments, we mean the ask, the specific ask. Ms. Shannon, take it away.
Thank you. This is Shannon Robinson coming from beautiful Grand Junction in Colorado. And throughout this webinar series, we've looked at moments in the history of communities, often the most invisible and despised, that captured hearts and minds and bent the arc of history towards justice and dignity. We have been seeing inspiring images such as these. So No No Boys, National Welfare Rights Organization, the Montgomery bus boycotts, and some other just beautiful, beautiful scenes that get things going. And we cannot forget that there were years, if not decades, of slow base building and shared analysis in those communities that led to these flashpoints in history. So today we want to focus on the most important unit in the social movement building, and that's people, or a person. So we're going to get into a character study. And so here's our person. And the question I want to put out to everybody is, what should we call this person? What should we name this person? What do you think this person's name is? And I'd like to see some ideas in the chat box, please. She, her, okay. We could, you know, at our meeting, we called this person Barb. I don't know how y'all feel about that.
No.
Human. Let's call her Human.
Human. All right, Human.
She or her. She's beautiful.
Let's call her Beautiful. What do you all think? I think that's pretty cool.
I like that one.
Beautiful.
Okay,
beautiful.
so we have Beautiful. We're working with Beautiful here. And Nevaeh, you want to take the next slide?
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. My name is Nevaeh. My pronouns are she and hers. I'm here at Denver, Colorado. And the question that I'll have is, what are some of the reasons this person would join your organization? So I'll repeat that question again. What are some reasons this person would join your organization?
And you can go ahead and type it into the chat box, or you can go ahead and raise your hand. We're a kind of small group today, and so we can actually go ahead and just raise your hand if you would like to talk about Beautiful and why she might join your organization.
Absolutely. So I got one that says to make change, common experiences and people trying to marginalize her. They're looking for camaraderie, unity, collaboration, collectiveness, common thread, sense of belonging, and women of power. Those are all good ones so far. Beautiful is a strong woman who wants to make a difference. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Anything else?
What other reasons might there be to build making change? Absolutely. So those are some really good ones. Now, the second question is, what makes people stay? You already got them in the door, so how do you keep them? Mission, drive, and passion. Inclusion. Inclusion is definitely a big one, because if somebody doesn't feel like they're welcome, then there's not a good chance that they're going to stick around. So definitely have to have inclusion. Definitely purpose.
Because we are family. Hey, I like that.
Absolutely. United. What about bonding experiences? That's a good one, right?
Mm-hmm. I said because we want to kick some ass.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Exactly. Filling scene was definitely a good one. Thanks for whoever wrote that one. And it kicks some ass.
Can I jump in?
Power. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, if I jump in. So another reason why I think Beautiful, in this case, if Beautiful is our character study, is Beautiful, and someone kind of alluded to it earlier, I think, to feel like they belong. Folks sometimes are just lonely. Folks want to be proactive in breaking their own isolation. So someone like Beautiful might join the organization with like the hopes of breaking that isolation, of feeling connected, of feeling better about themselves and making friends. And they're likely to stay, one, if they find that, yeah, and two, if they know that their presence is a contribution and that they're being seen and heard, right? Just wanted to add that.
Sorry, we're having a photo op here. Yeah, so excited because we were feeling all very seen.
We love memories. We love memories. Yeah. Making memories. That will count.
Yes. All right, and I'm going to turn this back over to Shannon. So take it away, Miss.
Thank you. So I'd like to ask everybody joining the webinar, how old is Beautiful? What do we think approximately? How old would Beautiful? We're building a character here, y'all. And so we're going to build this character, and then we're going to use this character as our beautiful human that we're going to do some engagement with, some one-on-one engagement. So Marlene says 36. Lisa says in her 30s. Oh, Beauty's ageless. Yeah.
Ageless, yeah.
Antonetta says 35. Hi, Eve. So yeah, looks like Beautiful is somewhere in her 30s. We did not decide on pronouns, so either she, her, they, them. So Beautiful, our beautiful human, a fabulous, fierce, and 40. Yeah, 50 and fabulous. So Beautiful is somewhere over 30, we'll say. Look at Greta Steinberg's beauty. Yes, Greta's inspiring. So what do you think Beautiful does for a living besides grassroots organizing? She does outreach. This person does outreach. Okay. What else? Barista. Yeah, which is really awesome. Great job. Fun job. Because everybody loves coffee or tea and those fabulous things to sip on. Okay, so we'll say Beautiful is somewhere between 30 and 50, we'll say. Is a barista. Who does Beautiful and does some community service, works in public school. All right. And who might Beautiful live with? Let's say Beautiful may have 2 children. Maybe live with a parent. Beautiful's a caregiver and a barista. Beautiful's pretty awesome. So we'll say Beautiful, her children, and her husband. So let's say Beautiful lives with children, husband, and an elderly parent that they're taking care of. Oh, single with 1 child. And her mom. Okay. So for our purposes, we'll say Beautiful has a family, a couple of people, at least 1 child, and an elderly parent that Beautiful's taking care of. And so Beautiful sounds like she might want to get out of the house a little bit, connect with other folks, and do some organizing. What do you think keeps them keeps Beautiful up at night and occupies Beautiful's thoughts? Or what kind of issues might impact Beautiful? I think Beautiful might be concerned about healthcare and insurance. Yes, there you go, right there. Great minds think alike. Healthcare for her family. Daycare, absolutely. Changing and wanting to make a difference. Rent with capitals.
It's important to have a place to live.
Absolutely.
It sure is.
Yeah, you don't make too much money as a barista either.
No.
Right.
No. You know, somebody earlier put maybe works at a public school. Maybe Beautiful is doing some part-time work at the school while one of the children is there, and then working as a barista and taking care of folks, helping to get housing for homelessness. I see a lot of healthcare and insurance going on. The injustice of living on the poverty line because she's trying to go to grad school and work. Bring it, Susan. So it sounds like these are Beautiful's values, and this is what matters to Beautiful the most. I think we can agree on that. What do you all think? What do you think, Rika?
Beautiful's on a mission, and Beautiful has a couple of missions on her plate.
Yeah.
And she's got a lot to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kinds of things might Beautiful be interested in? Besides these values that Beautiful has, what kinds of interests? Like, is Beautiful maybe creative, getting a PWN chapter going? Yeah.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. Creative, yay. Thank you, Rika. Beautiful's creative. Maybe Beautiful does some painting or some graphic design or something. To hang up is cooking, and that artwork hangs up or is displayed. She's a performing poet and loves open mic and crochet.
Yeah.
Beautiful's pretty awesome.
Got some talent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so sounds like we have our person. We know this person is between 30 and 45, let's say, somewhere in the middle. Is a barista, is going to school, maybe does some interning at a school in their neighborhood, a public school in their neighborhood, likes to cook, likes to crochet, play music, paint, and open mic poetry, also wants to start a PWN chapter. So we have gone over, you know, that's our recap of our person, and that's kind of includes some of their capabilities. So when we're looking at some of these one-on-one relationships, we want to see what skills and talents this person brings, or what we could call capacities. She's marched with Cornel West. All right, so what kinds of capacities does Beautiful have that we're looking for? Say we're in Beautiful's area talking about PWN, and Beautiful really wants to get this chapter going. What does Beautiful bring that we can team up on to start a chapter or do some work with PWN?
About dedication.
Yeah. Yeah, she sounds like a dedicated person. Okay. And she's creative. She's got some experience doing some stuff. Beautiful's pretty awesome. Okay. So let's pause. Okay. So we're going to pause and say that I'm Beautiful's organizer. And I want to organize and mobilize commitment, and to do this, I need to build a one-on-one relationship and do some base building. So let's say I approach Beautiful. I've met Beautiful once. Maybe I was at the coffee house they work at doing poetry, listening to poetry or something. So I've met them once. I learned a little bit about them. So I know a little bit about what Beautiful likes to do and Beautiful's home life a little bit. And I tell Beautiful, hey, we're planning this huge action in a couple of weeks. I really, really need you. I really need you to help, Beautiful. So I'm asking you to help with our civil disobedience action. I'm asking to see if you are willing to march and get arrested for our cause. Do y'all think this is an appropriate action to ask her? I've just said, beautiful. We're here. What? Girl, what are you
Beautiful might get angry.
thinking? Yeah, she has family to take care of. Right? Have this organizer lost their mind?
You gotta pay that rent, Shannon. She can't get locked up.
Not, yeah, she can't. Rent with small letters, rent with capital letters, that can't happen. She's got family. I have Angela saying not. What if I came to you and asked you that, and you have these, I'm assuming, thank you, about immigration status. Maybe Beautiful's already adjudicated and in the legal system, is on paper and is really, really doing good and doesn't want any part of that. Yeah. So when we're talking about the art of organizing, one of the most important parts of the art of organizing is the ask. We have to make appropriate asks that make sense for the person we're working with, but we have to assess how much can we push them. We wanted people to learn and grow, but we don't want to push them off the edge of a cliff, say. We want to push them forward. In this instance, we'd only met with this person once. And so what might be the result of asking something like, hey, let's go get arrested. What do you think, beautiful?
Well, Angela said maybe she could just make some signs, write some letters, make some phone calls.
But what could be the result of making this huge ask this early in our relationship?
Lisa says we lose a potential member.
Run away in capitals.
Run away.
Turn and run. Susan says she may not speak to me again. Yeah, she's probably every time that we're at a community thing or out and about, this person is going to avoid this organizer like the plague, right? Like, nope, that person's ridiculous. She likes to cook. Yeah. Ask her to bake a cake. And yes.
With a file in it.
Exactly.
That's Angela's idea, is to put a file in that sucker.
Hey, we just sprung you out of jail. Here's some cake. Absolutely. I would totally ask her for that. So even if this person is a longtime member of our organization, unless we've actually been tracking their engagement and assessing their commitment to our organization, we're risking making an inappropriate ask that may alienate them or drive away a potential volunteer or leader. And now I'm going to hand this over to Nevaeh.
Thank you. Okay, so organizing is another way of saying relationship building. A powerful organizing tool is, of course, a good list. With that being said, what is a good list? When you think of the words good list, what does that mean to you all? Are we even good at tracking each other's engagement? That's a good one. That's a good question. I think that's definitely something that needs to be considered. Always collecting proper data. Dependable people with varying skill sets. I definitely like that.
Shannon agrees.
Yeah. Get to know your surroundings. Definitely. Knowing where you can recruit the most people at, for sure.
So Nevaeh, are we talking like an engagement list? Like, say we've been tabling and we've collected people's emails?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's examples like that. Just kind of like, what type of stuff would you put down? Like, obviously we know to get like the name and the email address, but maybe where you received them at, what was the purpose, just your proper data entry, especially when you have to call these folks later on. So a good list. A good list tells us about the people we want to organize with. It provides a leadership assessment that later informs our ask. We talked about the ask earlier. And it is a hot list, a record of active relationships versus a list of attendees. So if you're not keeping in contact with these folks, or and you're not like developing a rapport with these folks, then more than likely that might not be a really good list. You want to keep it warm, so at least we said like 3 to 6 months. Make corrections in the known changes immediately. That's definitely a good one.
Monitoring your list and making sure that you know what information is active, current, and what is old news, what is new news.
Exactly. So keeping your list hot.
Like hot, baby.
All right, and then I'm gonna hand this back over to Shannon.
Thanks, Nevaeh. So let's look at some scenarios. In each of these scenarios, you'll get a little bit about what's going on with our volunteer. Sorry, I can't see my notes page, but I'm going to wing it here. So we'll see what's going on. We'll see what kind of list we have. And with this scenario 1, it says, I was hired to organize domestic workers, and after 10 months in the field, I haven't had much luck identifying many volunteers, much less potential leaders or new members. I, the organizer, have decided to hold a domestic worker conference in a month. A month from now is a strategy to identify new supporters. Here's the kicker. I inherited a list built over the past 4 years with 300 people on said list. So I and 3 volunteers plan to call this list and invite people to attend the conference. My goal is to get 100 people to attend the event and recruit 30 members to be attendees. So let's look. What's their strategy? Do you think we'll meet our goal, and why or why not? So again, a list that's 4 years old. I'm going to cold call or call 300 people that I may or may not have met. Most likely not. Haven't had much luck so far. Am I going to meet my 100 goal? And is this what we would consider a good list?
So people can chat into the type into the chat box. Sorry, I couldn't get that out. Do you think that they will meet their goals? Why and why not? Don't just depend on the list. Lisa Johnson says, go out and network and make a new list. That complex.
I would add the question, like, what do folks think about this organizer strategy?
Very last minute, in my opinion.
Some good comments.
Sorry, I was going to read that. Domestic workers have fear about consistent employment because their employment may be tenuous.
Is there time to hold an event with food to get them re-engaged?
Food's always a good connection strategy.
Yeah, Friday is the best.
Well, and maybe Beautiful's one of those volunteers. She likes to cook, right?
How about like the strategy of the engagement? It's not just outreach. This is the organizer's strategy. How does it relate to the goal of what they're trying to accomplish? Is this list going to help them, and what they're going to do with the list going to help them reach their goal? What do folks think?
There's one comment that says, not sure. The list is old. Contact info may have changed, but join with another agency to reach your goal. Plus, you're doing this at the last minute. Don't give. So brought up some really good points. Old list, and it's very last minute. So those goals probably won't be as feasible as you want them to be.
And I have a lot of empathy for this organizer, right? I could relate to 10 months of frustration, yeah. And I also cringe at their approach of a list, and the time it takes, as someone mentioned. Like, a lot of that information could be like just no good. So you're using time. Your volunteers might get frustrated, right? So you might end up with no volunteers after a while. So she may get 10 or 30 folks interested. I agree, she might, right? But it's a big lift for a lot of uncertainty, big risky lift. Yeah, maybe we could look at scenario 2 now.
Okay, so yeah, let's move on to the next scenario. Can I get a volunteer to read this one? Okay, so I guess I'll go ahead and I'll read it. I was hired to organize domestic workers. After 10 months in the field, I haven't had much luck identifying very many volunteers, much less potential leaders or new members. I decided to hold domestic worker conference 1 month from now. I inherited a list built over the past 4 years of over 300 people, but I've never contacted them. I decided my key outreach method will be a targeted Facebook ad campaign to build a list of potential attendees. I and my 3 volunteers plan to call the FB ad list and invite people to attend our conference. My goal is for 100 people to attend the event and to get 30 attendees to commit and to attend a follow-up meeting. So let's talk about the list. First off, what's going on there? And let's talk about what y'all think about the organizer strategy in general. Right, Facebook ad. Okay, let me rephrase it. What could be some potential barriers to relying strictly on Facebook ads, let alone social media? Not everyone is on Facebook. And it is a great way to share, but not everybody, but not really to recruit. Those are good points. I mean, how many times have we made an event on Facebook and invited folks, and they were the same people that might have been interested or going, but they never showed up?
And you have those people who are like, how come you didn't come? I didn't get an invitation to your party. Oh, didn't you get on Facebook? No, I'm not on Facebook.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Instagram or Twitter. I mean, yeah, those are better, but again, social media is not really that face-to-face. You would want to go to recruiting, to talk to people one-on-one, maybe to hang up flyers at your local recreation center, being active within your community, being a presence within your community.
Yeah, Antoinette says call your city council, your house of worship, your friends and your family. If this is your dream, then don't give up.
Yeah.
That's 100%.
Absolutely. Okay, so
Lisa, do you want to add anything into that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're seeing in this scenario is again an organizer that is just kind of really grasping at straws. Yeah, so there's a list that they have that they've never bothered to use. We could just assume that's a cold list, right? And it's going to stay that way. And we know how hard it is. Yeah. We know how hard it is to, like, over 4 years that there's been contact with 300 people. That's a lot of time, labor, and effort that is basically going to get, like, wasted, right? So that's one thing. The other is that, again, yeah, folks mentioned, like, yeah, like Facebook ad campaign, again, real big risk for such a high stakes event, right? We've all organized and been part of organizing medium to large scale events, and we know, like, the last thing you want to be doing is biting your nails to see if anyone's coming. And especially if your goal is to have 100 people. Yeah. So it's a real big question mark of what the outcome of a targeted Facebook ad campaign will look like. It's true, you know, that's how the when Barack Obama ran for election and re-election, they used a lot of Facebook ad campaigns to build lists, and it was effective. But you know, these days I think people are responding less and less to them. So I guess that would be like my 2 cents about, like, this organizer that I feel a lot for, but, you know, really grasping at straws at how to build a list, how to use a list, what to do with the list they have, and really not having a lot of direction around that.
Okay, so bottom line, do you think they'll meet their goal?
I like Shannon's acronyms: Frank, friends, relatives, acquaintances, neighbors, and kids connections. That's cool. All right, so let's move on. Does anybody want to read? If you want to read, raise your hand, or raise your hand in the raise your hand section, and we'll take you off of mute.
You got Lisa. Yeah. Hey, Lisa, thanks for volunteering to read. You're off of mute now.
Thank you. Scenario 3. I was hired, wait a minute. Okay. I was hired to organize domestic workers. After 10 months in the field, I haven't had much luck identifying very many volunteers, much less potential leaders or new members. I have 3 volunteers and a 4-0 list of over 300 people. Looking at the list, I know who the oldest, newest contacts are. I also know which events they attended and if they received a follow-up call. Our goal is to identify 100 potential supporters, 30 volunteers, and 10 potential leaders.
Lisa, are you still off of mute? You can. Do you have any thoughts? Would you like to share?
Oh, sure. I still feel the list is still old. It can be workable because we know the oldest and the newest contacts, and we know which events they have attended. And if they received a follow-up call, within that follow-up call, we could find out who led some of the sessions, who helped do what, and in what capacity. And maybe you can network with those people that are in leadership position to try and get other people to come. That's my thoughts.
Nice. Yep. Thank you for sharing that. We also have Susan who raised her hand. We're going to go ahead and take you off of mute, Susan. Okay. Please go ahead and share your thoughts. Yeah.
Hey, Susan, did you have any thoughts that you wanted to add about what Lisa had read on scenario 3? Or were you volunteering to read?
Oh, I was volunteering to read, but I did. Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Oh, great. Oh, hi, everyone. Yes, I wondered, it made me think of lists like that where sometimes a person 4 years ago jumped into something, but things happened in their life and you think, wow, I haven't heard from them. I wonder what happened. And then we forget to call them back, and they may be just at the right point now to put themselves into leadership work, but they also maybe have forgotten how to contact us, for example.
Yes, I am so guilty of that exact scenario. All right, anybody else want to speak? Raise your hand, please. So Jeanette also says update your list.
Yeah, I think, this is Lisa. I think that the fact that the organizer is looking at the list, right? In the previous scenarios, it seemed like the organizer was just like, we have that old list, let's do something different. In this scenario, the organizer is like, let's see what we got, right? There's some data points or data sets that can be sortable to see if there's a way to create a shorter list that is more viable, that's warmer, maybe lukewarm, but at least not cold or unknown. And agree what a previous person who was commenting, I think it was Lisa, about the follow-up call. Like, did they get a follow-up call? And then certainly agree with what Susan just said about, like, yeah, you know, people step away for a minute because life happens, but, you know, sometimes they're just a phone call away where they're ready to get activated. So I think that that's what I'm noticing here. And I'm also noticing that the goal is different. In this scenario, the organizer isn't thinking of like a event. Isn't event oriented, like, oh, if we just do this conference, the conference will do the organizing for me, right? So that's not even an option here. They're actually just thinking of like, how can I like warm up this list, find 100 people who are open to supporting, right? Supporting the cause, whatever the cause may be. And if I can get 30 people to volunteer for something, right? That puts the onus on the organizer to create an ask that is doable, that is creative and attractive. And, you know, it requires them to kind of actually probably talk to people, find out what they're into. If we think back to our character, Beautiful, right? There is a lot of good information about things that Beautiful could do, you know, from baking to crochet to, like, you know, being compassionate about her community. So I think, you know, thinking of her list not as how do I drive these people to an event that I'm going to put together, but more like how am I going to get to know these people and engage them, either as a supporter, as a volunteer. And maybe out of all these people, 10 people start to show signs of potential leadership, right? In other words, leadership is their willingness to help others face uncertainty. Their willingness to be courageous and tell their story, you know, their public narrative, and how they came to be interested in this kind of work. That's what I see, like just a lot more, probably a lot more growth from the organizer in terms of their approach, but also just more in tune of how we want to approach the organizing work and how it is centered on knowing the list, knowing who the people are. And if you got to start from scratch and just you know, set up one-on-ones to meet them and get to know tidbits like we did, like now we know a little bit about Beautiful, just a little bit, you know, that's enough to get started, and how the list can help us with that.
All right, Lisa, we have Tana who's got a question or a comment, so we're going to take her off mute. Give us just 1 second, Tana. All right, you're good.
Tana, I think you got yourself on mute there. So we're going to go ahead and just promote you to a panelist. Welcome to the panelist world. Tana, did you have a question or a comment you wanted to add? Okay.
All right, moving on. We're going to pass it back to Shannon.
Thank you. So now let's take a look at some lists. It's funny to say a list could make or break an organizer's recruitment and engagement strategy, but it's true, and I know this for a fact. I'm building a list right now for an organization I work with. We should view lists as containers that hold purpose-driven data. So it holds beautiful, and we're holding space and creating grace for people in those lists. Every bit of information has a purpose, and that purpose is to engage our members and retain them. And when it comes to lists, what we don't know can hurt us. So let's look at this list. For instance, what does it tell us? All right, Nevaeh.
Oh, this is the, okay. Oh, I thought we were moving on to the next list. I apologize. Yeah, what does this list tell us? Well, first off, it just gives like general names and emails and telephone numbers. We don't know, and it says like signed petition. We don't know which petition was signed. Exactly, what was the petition for? We don't know. It doesn't say. We don't know when these people were outreached to. We don't kind of know the event. Me personally, I would like to see like the company, or not even the company, but like the agency, because especially if you work in nonprofit world, like we have lists on top of lists on top of lists, so it's easy to confuse those. It just kind of seemed like everything was kind of thrown together.
No names, no interesting or defining information. That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. No areas of interest. Uh-oh, Barb has a couple of lists like this.
I do. I do, and I unpack them every time, and I go, oh, no, what am I supposed to do with this? They were from early on. I was young and foolish then. Yeah.
Definitely no last names. Last names definitely help.
There's list 2.
Now, what does this list say? It's like it's a little bit more specific. Excuse me.
Tells us if they're warm.
Yeah.
If they're a cold lead or a warm lead. Tells us if there's a commitment for a one-on-one. So that's always good to have, because sometimes you get those people where you're not sure if you should call and try to attempt that one-on-one, but if you know, black and white, bam, let's call them.
Yeah. Especially language. I think that's a really big one. What's their primary language that they speak? Like, I definitely feel like that's important, especially for me. Like, if I was to call someone who primarily spoke Spanish, definitely wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And it also tells you how interested people are, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Tells you if they're a domestic worker, which is really important too, because you got to know like what your where your target conversation is going to go.
Absolutely.
And Susan says, I give you my email in the chat. Oh, I'm sorry. That was not a comment. All right, let's take a look at our last list. All right, last list. So we have the name, we have their address, what language they speak, their phone number. What is it? I don't know what the yes or no columns are.
Yeah,
but
I guess that those are issues that they're interested in. So the first column is, are they interested in unstable housing and the rights of people who are unstably housed? We're making up our categories now. We can't do the header column. The second column is, are they interested in food instability or food deserts?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then we have if they're warm or cold contacts, and then the last one, we don't have a header for that either, so we kind of don't know what that is for, but we'll say it's if they need school supplies.
Yeah.
We might consider that last column to be like a commitment to mobilize a commitment, whether it's to have another one-on-one or to attend a meeting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So how are these lists different from the last ones?
Or is the city, state, zip in case you want to mail them?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Very pertinent information.
And you might also want that information too, like for your first meeting, right? Like to see if everyone is within the same areas. That way you all can have like face-to-face interaction.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Shannon said, I would want to know if I should call or text. That's very important. Some people don't answer their phones. Like if I see an unknown number that if it's not saved in my phone, typically I don't answer it. So if you text me and be like, hey, this is so-and-so, I know, oh, okay. I'm going to save it in my phone and I'll answer it next time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Lisa, would you like to add anything to this? Shannon also says, I would keep in mind that some of the cold people may warm up later. That's definitely true.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in that situation where I didn't even call, and then I ran into that person at a resource event, and then they're like, hey, how come you never called me? I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't think you were that warm.
Yeah, actually, I guess on that note, the only other thing that I would add is that, that our list is not should never be a static thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It should be a list that, as folks commented earlier, is getting updated with new information, has dates of the last time it was previously updated so that is this current? Is this 4 months ago? Is this a year ago? And certainly, like once we start to develop relationships with folks and begin to move them up the leadership ladder and engage them in our work, we want to keep more copious notes, right? So we might have more narrative notes, maybe saved on a database that is not like, you don't want necessarily an Excel spreadsheet to end up with 15 different columns and paragraphs of notes in this format. But this kind of list is good if you need to print out and you need to do follow-up calls, or you just want to know basic things, right? Before you make the call, before you go visit people, you want to make sure that you have okay, you remember certain things, right? This list could also include a column of certain things about them, like is this a single parent? Do they work swing shifts? So you remember when's the best time that they can meet during the week, so that catch them on their off day. So little notes like that would also help you in being knowledgeable about people, right? Because as we talked about, beautiful, creating, wanting to belong, we get a sense that we belong when the folks that are that we meet in the organizations that we're checking out and wanting to get involved in, if we notice that they're paying attention to who we are, they're getting to know us, they know that I have children, they ask me about them, creating that history with each other and knowledge of each other is part of creating belonging. And it's the kind of radical hospitality that will not only invite new folks, but also retain current members and help us make appropriate asks.
Yeah, definitely. So building a good list is more than collecting a sign-in sheet. Shannon, you had a comment about the door, foyer, and kitchen. You want to elaborate a little bit?
Sure.
Kind of a refresher, I guess it would be.
I work for a teen homeless shelter, and my volunteer recruiter and I are working together, and I was telling her about these webinars, and we set up our tabs on our Excel spreadsheet, talking about, we have one tab that's a door, one's the foyer, and we're trying to get to the kitchen. And that's kind of our fun thing to keep us engaged. And we're like, look, all these people we've gotten, we may have met them at outreach, and look, they're in our kitchen. And one of the things that our volunteers do is they actually cook for the teens that are in the host home. And so it's just a fun way for us to build our list and see the movement, and really looking at these people are literally in our kitchen. And it's thank you for thanks, Lisa, because it's been really inspiring.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for sharing that list. That's awesome. I love that. I love that. So a good list represents an incredible amount of work and on the part of the organizer and a part of the volunteers. And in addition to a good list, it can help guide us on how we mobilize commitments and how we create a sense of belonging among our other leaders. Our list should include the basic contact information, the most current assessments, their most current participation, and any other relevant information that we have. We should definitely put those on those lists. And most importantly, a good list can help to guide us in how we mobilize commitments and create a sense of belonging among other leaders. Can I just read that? Sorry. So when we do this and we fulfill our role as organizers of setting up the conditions for the individual to join collective action for the change that we're representing. All right, we're going to recap. Ms. Nevaeh?
Yeah.
Well, do you want to talk about the plan like this and how you use it?
Sure, Lisa. I'm going to let Lisa talk about this plan. My one-on-ones tend to fall off the map sometimes, and I'm bad at it.
Yeah, I guess this slide was just to kind of give us a visual sense of how much work goes into building a list, right? And Rika had just kind of touched on that topic. And we put a lot of work into the events when we're trying to identify people, when we're doing our outreach work and our contact work and all that amazing storytelling that we hear in the community of what people share. But oftentimes, that information could end up living in the head of one person, right? And we also know that in our many times paid organizers often come and go, right? So you kind of look at this calendar of like how much work it takes to in organizing to do outreach, to meet with people, to collect their stories and know their story and invite them to event, and to do that in a real mindful way. Unless we are keeping good data and maintaining our list with the pertinent information about people, we might end up like that organizer in scenario 1, right? That has this list that's been built over 4 years that represents an untold number of hours and footwork, and we have no idea how to use it, right? So this is just kind of a little example to give us a visual sense of like, yeah, it's a lot of work, and we want to make that work count. We want to keep those lists as evergreen as possible, and we need to keep working them. They represent the lives, the stories, and the information that we have collected over time from real human beings like Beautiful, who have amazing stories to tell and amazing skills and talent to contribute to making change.
Thank you so much. For the wrap-up slide. We are ready to wrap it all
right,
up.
So we're going to go ahead and recap.
No, you got the collage slides.
I do got collage slides? Oh, sorry. I'm jumping ahead all crazy, sorry. I'm ready to go get lunch. My stomach's growling. I hope they're not listening. Okay, most importantly, a good list can help us guide in how we mobilize commitments and create a sense of belonging among other leaders. There's Miss Beautiful. She's there with our Fearless. And when we do this, we fulfill our role as organizers, setting up the conditions for individuals to join collective actions for change. All right, now we're going to recap.
Now we're recapping. Okay. So, in review, list building equals relationships. A good list is not built in a day. Lists are only as good as the information we track, aka collecting accurate data. Good organizers work their lists and keep them warm. Data should tell a story of your constituents and their potentials for leadership. Okay, and with that being said, with the time we have left, we're going to unmute folks to share their final thoughts, comments, questions, and concerns.
So just to let everybody know, what I'm doing is I'm moving everybody into panelist mode so that you all can come on the video and can go ahead and share. If you're somewhere where it's noisy, we are asking that you go ahead and just put yourself on mute. But want to make sure that we have a chance as we draw our block party to a close to get a chance to see everybody and to have a last moment. So hang on while I do this. Tried to do it while we were recapping, but they're all a little bit too fast for me, so indeed.
It's okay, Susan. We don't mind if you just washed your hair.
Yeah.
Marlene says, my phone is about to die and I'm not around to charge it. Oh, you have a good day. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. And so we've promoted everybody to presenter. And we're going to go ahead and stop sharing our slides so that we can see everyone who is willing to put their phone on with the video. And so with that, I think today you're facilitating the open forum.
Yeah. So what questions do you all have? What comments do you all have?
Hi, Susan. You look great. Thank you all for joining us today. It was in previous sessions, if you joined us, thank you. It was an honor and a privilege to be part of the facilitating group.
Absolutely.
I learned a lot, including tech stuff that I didn't want to know.
Yeah, so I guess perhaps start off the open forum. Maybe what we can ask is what one thing people have learned that's new from today or from the webinar series. And if you are not somewhere where you can unmute your phone, you can still go ahead and type it in the chat box and we'll go ahead and share. But otherwise, everybody is able to unmute themselves and can come on and talk.
Please share.
Yeah, Jeanette's in the training, she can't talk. That's all right, Jeanette. We absolutely appreciate your multitasking. So I can go ahead and start. What was new to me is that I have had, as I said, I have a number of lists that have been not particularly useful. And so over the time, what I have really appreciated is what makes a good list and how to possibly shift a not so good list into a good list, what kind of follow-up work can happen, and then also the strategy with the calendar about how to really kind of develop a list and keep it warm has been really, really helpful for me.
I'm going to piggyback on that, and see the list was really huge for me too. And I think, sorry, excuse me, working on my procrastination to get these lists done and like feel the success of it afterwards is going to be really nice for me because I'm going to start keeping with the program and updating my list.
That list.
History. Yes. Go ahead, Tana.
Yeah, I was going to say that list is important, especially in the work that we do, especially the email addresses. Because I'm one of those people, I don't answer phones, so I use email. You can always catch me by email for those that do have emails. And sometimes their address is important because some people don't even have, they only have a certain amount of minutes a month or text.
Yeah, that's a great point, Tana. I think that we, especially at PWN as we go forth, always try and be really considerate about the technology access that people have, as well as the data that people have. Sometimes people don't have data, and texting is the best way. And if I'm all, well, I'm going to email you, I'm not being a really good organizer in that role, am I? If I'm not trying to figure out how to make sure that I connect with people.
Right. So having different avenues is definitely. Go ahead, Shannon. I saw you about to say something.
I'm about to, yeah, so I absolutely agree with Tana and Barb. And one of the things that I've added is a preferred form of contact. And I have set up Google Voice so I can text right from my computer or email, or even call. Phone, fax, email, carrier pigeon, whatever, I'll get a hold of somebody. And I love you all.
We love you too.
Yeah, this is Lisa. So kind of think back at what we wanted, what the name of this webinar was, beyond list building, a movement moment conversation. Because I think, we can all relate to, being handed a list and saying, what am I supposed to do with this, right? Especially if we aren't the ones who built it. So for me, like, the movement moment conversation that we can continue, even after, this webinar series, this is the last one, is to just keep reaching out to each other and learning, asking questions about, like, how do you keep your lists warm? How do we keep people engaged? What is the good thing to track, right? We all have experimented with different models and, probably have experience with different databases, and it could get really technical, right? So this wasn't about getting technical. It was about what information do we need so that we can be in right relationship with people, right? It's not about like, oh, my list is, like the technical, the columns, but it's about what do I need to know to be in right relationship, and why is that important? Why is that important in this moment in time, in this moment in history, that in addition to kind of keeping our eye on the prize and the bigger fights that we have, even heading into 2020, kind of like the fight of our lives, right? How do we still keep centered that question of being in right relationship with each other, being in right relationship with the community? And so as sterile as a list may sound, actually that's how we're going to remember who the people are that we're talking to, and remind ourselves how to hold their story with honor and respect, right? And keep those notes. So whatever the data is, whatever the columns are named, like, what is important for us in our work as organizers and in the work of our organizations, and to think about that we may not always be the one leading the organizing. At some point, we all pass the baton and there's another organizer who's going to have to come take our place. What are we leaving for them so that they can be successful, right? We often, kind of get short-sighted. We don't think about that. And, so if I'm like working my butt off, making these amazing lists, and then I have to, for whatever reason, could be health reasons, could be I took another job, I had to move. If I am thinking about, another way is to think about, like, my work as an organizer, I need to, like, organize it and document it so that I can give it to the next person, right? That baton's got to keep going, because we all have, like, we take turns. We have to rotate in our leadership. Yeah. So that's a little bit of the movement moment conversation of, like, to be thinking about who else is going to be using the tools that I create, so that someone else can continue the work while I tend to something else. Otherwise, like, the expectation that we're the ones who are always going to own the list is about, more of like, how am I going to work to burnout levels, and not ever think about who else is going to, like, take this work on while I regenerate myself, right?
So it looks like, yes, absolutely, Lisa. I think that I, typed in the chat box that we, have finally seen in the HIV movement that people are healthy enough and have been doing this work and are able to retire, which is something that we never expected to be possible. And so we're now entering this new era of thinking about what does the work look like when we are ready to continue forward and to do another adventure or to move into a different space. And so certainly keeping good lists is powerful. And then I just want to see, it looks like Angela as well as Elder Antoinetta have come off of mute and wanted to see if there was something that they wanted to add as we were sort of summarizing what we learned over the block party, but especially this particular webinar about keeping lists warm and sharing our organizing skills.
I didn't know that I had come off of mute.
Well, you did. Do you have something you'd like to add, Angela?
I think someone said earlier when I was noticing on that last list or the next to the last list, whichever one it was, an Alejandro. There were 2 Alejandros on there, and I think it's very important to have last names and full names in case Alejandro one was a junior and one was a senior, because on the detail information field, it said one Alejandro was warm and he had been recently contacted, and the other Alejandro was cold, but they're both at the same address. So I think it's really important to have correct and accurate, detailed information. And I am a detailed person. Benita always calls me the eagle-eyed detective because I'm your proofreader. I catch try to catch all that stuff. So
yeah,
and I did
absolutely.
Very
educational. Yeah, thank you, Angela. If you have a list that you would like to have somebody look at and spot inconsistencies or challenges, Angela is your person, because she, yes, indeed, spots all of the ones that don't work quite so well, which is a strength, because then you know how to change and how to perhaps shape how you're collecting information so that it is a little bit better. So we are, I think, unless there's anyone else who wants to share, I think that Susan has put herself on mute, but she has a couple of points that she has shared in the chat box that are powerful. Yes, we're family, and even when we're dysfunctional, we can help center each other because we have courageously shared our authentic stories, which is absolutely, and it kind of reminds me of the beginning of our block party series when we talked about the history. So last check-in to see if there are any final thoughts.
Well, I would like to say, this is Tana. This has been awesome. These 6 series has been great in what we're getting ready to do. So y'all have done a fabulous job. I just wanted to say that.
Thanks, Tana. Appreciate that. And so, panelists, anything else that you would like to add today?
Thank you all for tuning in. I definitely learned a lot.
Yeah, I as well. And I loved that you all could join us, and it means so much to us. So thank you for following us along this whole time and for being here today. Let's get out and organize. Let's get out and kick some ass.
Absolutely. Shannon, is there anything that you would like to add?
I just want to thank you so much. This has been a wonderful opportunity. And because I'm kind of on the other state from Barb and Rika and Nevaeh, I am going to start creating my own webinars to do some harm reduction stuff and some other things, because I work in a place that's 40,000 square miles and I can't be everywhere. I wish I could. And I've learned so much and I feel so included and loved, and thank you very much. I appreciate you all.
And Lisa, last thought?
For bearing with me, I was multitasking. I'm going to get frustrated, and this was a training that I need to be at. But I also remembered that I was supposed to be on this call, so I'm here. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeanette. And Lisa, did you have final thoughts you wanted to add about our block party?
Yeah, it was a really big, a really great challenge and a really great opportunity to put together this series with you all. I really appreciate the opportunity to do it. And I really hope that this webinar series is even for like folks who maybe attended one or two or the whole series, have an opportunity to just keep the conversation going, and to keep in touch with each other. I'm sure you all do, and to share. And I'm thrilled that Shannon's going to be putting together her own webinar series. I think that's great, and just want to thank you all for this time.
Great, and thank you all so much. This is Barb Cardell. I'm with PWN. I'm the training director. Here's my contact information if anyone would like to reach out. The webinars recordings are on our Facebook page. We talked about Facebook pages not being so effective. Our recordings are on our website, and so if you would like to go back and rewatch any of them, you certainly feel free to do so, or to share that with someone that you feel would benefit from learning more about community organizing. I want to thank Lisa Castellanos as well as GOI for being incredible partners with PWN as we've created this series that has brought a new amount of knowledge around community organizing and engagement. So not just organizing, not just building lists, but about engagement, moving beyond, bringing people up the leadership ladder. And as always, I want to thank my facilitators and co-presenters, and also want to go back and remind everyone that we do indeed stand on the shoulders of giants. And in the HIV advocacy work, we know this. And I just want to go back to our slide from our history, because this is indeed, you know, the history of our organizing. It is how we've got here, who has helped us learn these skills. And, you know, if we do what we need to do to protect our communities, maybe a picture of us will be up on this at some point in time, because the work that we do, especially in the upcoming year, is going to be more powerful and more important than ever. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and conclude our block party. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We're going to play out to just the last little bit of We Are Family, because again, individually, we are not nearly as powerful as we are together. So again, thank you all for being our family. Thank you all for joining us on Saturday morning, and thank you all for your advocacy, your engagement, and your partnership.
Together as we walk on by, and we fly just like birds of a feather. I want you to know all of the people
you guys. Come on over and get your dance. Come on. We got ya. Come on over and dance with us.
I expect to see you all on the dance floor with me soon.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you all so much. And with that, we're going to go ahead and conclude our final block party webinar. We appreciate each and every one of you. And thank you so very much for all of your heart, your passion, and your advocacy.